Welcome to Leading Beyond Limits, the podcast where we explore the extraordinary journeys and insights of remarkable leaders who have pushed the boundaries of what's possible. Your host, Angel Radcliffe, who is a digital transformation leader, author, speaker, and financial educator, will lead each episode and dive deep into the stories, strategies, and philosophies that have empowered these exceptional individuals to lead, inspire, and achieve beyond the ordinary. We're about to embark on a journey of discovery and inspiration, and together, we'll learn what it takes to lead beyond limits. So grab your cape, or at least your favorite coffee mug, because we're about to unravel the extraordinary tales of trailblazers who've turned impossible into I'm possible. Let's get started.
Think about the last time you received one of those, great job emails from your boss. Or, maybe one of those generic $5 coffee gift cards for saving a major client account.
Oh, yeah. The classic low-effort corporate reward.
Right. Exactly. And did it actually feel like fuel propelling you forward, or did it feel like a slightly awkward HR checkbox just being ticked off? Welcome to the deep dive. This one is, it's entirely custom tailored for you.
It really is.
Yeah, we are looking at a really fascinating stack of your notes today, and we are zeroing in on one very specific leadership scenario you shared. Because the mission today is to completely upend how you think about recognition.
And I think it's a super important pivot because, in most corporate environments, recognition is almost universally treated as this lightweight, uncomplicated reflex.
Right.
Someone hits a target, you hand them a certificate, or, maybe you give them a quick shout out in a team meeting.
Yeah, little round of applause on the Zoom call.
Exactly. It's viewed as a simple transaction. It's basically the bright, sugary icing you sprinkle on top of the actual serious work of the day.
The icing on the cake, right. But then when you look at the notes from the scenario you provided and you step into the actual messy psychological landscape of leading a team, suddenly that simple pat on the back becomes, incredibly heavy.
Oh, incredibly heavy.
Yeah. This scenario just shatters that lightweight assumption completely. It demands that we look at recognition not as a soft skill, but as one of the most psychologically complex and frankly demanding acts of leadership there is.
It really is. It's a moment where a leader's relationship with risk, with visibility, and with ambiguity is completely exposed for everyone to see.
Exactly. And the scenario centers around one very potent idea, which is this quote: "Recognition is gas in the tank."
And to really do justice to the notes he sent over, we need to move entirely past the surface of that statement. Like, we aren't going to sit here and give you a tactical 10-step framework on how to give better compliments.
Right. No checklist today.
No. Or, telling you what day of the week is best to send a thank you note. There are plenty of management seminars for that kind of thing. Instead, we're pausing to understand the deep, often unspoken internal friction that leaders face when deciding what, and honestly who, to celebrate.
Yeah, the emotional pressure.
Yes. We want to examine that intense emotional pressure, the profound discomfort of risk, and the sheer weight of responsibility that comes with leading when your certainty is incomplete.
Which is almost always, right? So let's start with a brilliant and honestly slightly terrifying cause and effect dynamic that the scenario sets up. It states, what gets celebrated gets repeated. If the only feedback your team receives is corrective, you are training them to avoid mistakes rather than chase excellence.
That's such a heavy quote.
It is. So let's look at what happens when that gas in the tank is absent. Why do leaders so frequently default to a completely different kind of feedback? Why is corrective feedback such a gravitational pull?
Well, we have to look at the psychology of the leader in that exact moment. It rarely comes from a place of malice. And it isn't necessarily because the leader is some horrible micromanager.
Right.
It actually comes from the leader's desperate human need for solid ground. So think about a standard project review meeting. You're looking at a team's work, pointing out an error like a flawed metric on a spreadsheet or a missed deadline or a broken formatting rule. It means you are dealing with objective reality.
It's black and white.
Exactly. A mistake is measurable. It is undeniable. Pointing it out feels incredibly safe because the evidence is entirely visible to everyone in the room.
It's definitive. And honestly, it's so much easier to just red pen a typo on page 4 of a proposal than to evaluate whether the actual underlying strategy makes any sense at all.
Oh, absolutely.
You get to feel like a boss without doing the really hard work of interpretation. So I kind of picture it like this. Corrective feedback feels like walking on a paved road. The boundaries are engineered, they're incredibly clear. If your employee steps out of bounds, they hit the rumble strip, you point it out, and you correct their course.
I like that, the rumble strip.
Great. But recognizing the pursuit of excellence, that feels like stepping out of the car and walking into a vast, foggy, open field because excellence is subjective. It's nuanced. It's highly ambiguous.
It's extremely ambiguous.
But I do want to push back on this for a second because I think we have to be fair to the reality of management here. Isn't it entirely natural for a leader to want the safety of that paved road? I mean, if you are carrying the weight of a team's performance, if your neck is on the line for their output, doesn't focusing relentlessly on errors feel like the most responsible way to protect the organization from risk?
See, that is the exact trap outlined in this scenario.
Really?
Yeah. It feels deeply irresponsible, yes, but it is a total illusion of safety. What's fascinating here is what is actually happening beneath the surface of that decision to just focus on the errors. By choosing the comfort of pointing out mistakes, a leader is subconsciously prioritizing their own need for certainty over the team's need for momentum.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That ego protection is the exact barrier. You are protecting yourself from the discomfort of ambiguity rather than actually protecting the organization from failure.
That is a harsh reality check. So the paved road isn't protecting the team's output at all. It's protecting the leader's ego. The leader gets to feel authoritative without taking on any personal risk.
Precisely. Because to cultivate excellence, the leader has to willingly embrace vulnerability. You have to step away from the safety of undeniable facts and step into the realm of interpretation and, judgment.
Which is scary. It's terrifying. You have to look at a messy, ongoing process. Maybe it's a marketing campaign that isn't quite hitting its early metrics, but is pushing a vital creative boundary. And you have to say, I believe this is the right direction, even if the final results aren't guaranteed yet.
You have to bet on them.
Right. And when you only correct mistakes, you are essentially broadcasting a very clear, silent message to your team. You're saying, my highest priority is that we don't look bad.
Yeah, just don't mess up.
Exactly. And the natural human response to that environment is a team that simply stops taking the creative leaps required for excellence. They put their heads down, they follow the exact letter of the law, and they focus entirely on surviving your scrutiny.
They learn to expertly navigate the rumble strips, but they never actually drive anywhere interesting.
Which brings us to a major turning point in the scenario you shared with us. If correcting mistakes is a retreat into safety, we have to ask why providing the alternative, the gas in the tank, causes such massive hesitation. Because the scenario uses a defining metaphor here. Recognition is the gas in the tank that keeps a high-performing culture moving. It isn't a bonus, it's a necessity.
We really need to sit with that distinction.
Yeah.
Because a bonus is something you can survive without.
Right.
It's the proverbial cherry on top.
Yeah, it's nice to have, but not essential.
Right. But if something is a necessity, if it is the literal combustible fuel for the engine, then withholding it isn't just a simple oversight. It is an act of active sabotage against your own culture.
Right. So if a leader knows this, or, at least senses that their team needs encouragement, why do they constantly delay or withhold that fuel? Because you see it all the time in corporate life.
All the time.
Right. A team is grinding away, putting in late hours, doing highly innovative work, and the leader is they're dead silent. They are a ghost.
Well, if we pull back and look at the broader picture of leadership psychology, that hesitation almost never stems from a lack of information.
It doesn't.
No, it's not that the leader doesn't see the good work happening. The leader sees the late hours. They see the innovation. The hesitation stems entirely from the leader's deep discomfort with accountability and visibility.
Oh, interesting. Unpack that a bit.
So let's think about what gas actually does in an engine. It accelerates the vehicle in a specific direction. When a leader provides recognition, they are pouring gas on a behavior. They are telling the whole team, this is what we value. They are actively accelerating the culture toward that specific standard.
Which means they have to own that direction. Like if the direction turns out to be wrong down the line, they are the one who fueled it.
Yes. And that is a terrifying prospect for someone who feels insecure in their own judgment. Because if you celebrate the wrong thing, you accelerate the wrong culture.
Wow. Let's put the vehicle metaphor down for just a second and look at the human reality of this. If a leader says to you, I'm just waiting for the right moment, or, I want to see how this software launch actually performs in the market before I start handing out praise, What are they actually doing there? Are they just waiting for the risk of being wrong to completely disappear?
Absolutely. They are waiting for the outcome to validate their judgment so they don't have to carry the risk themselves.
Right. They want the safety net.
Exactly. They want the quarter-end numbers to be finalized. They want the client to sign the 5-year contract. They want the product to launch without a single bug. They crave absolute certainty.
But the brutal truth of the scenario is that leadership decisions, especially the highly subjective decision of what to celebrate, are almost always made with partial clarity.
Yes, waiting for absolute certainty before you fuel the team is literally an abdication of leadership responsibility.
Because by the time you have absolute certainty, the moment where the fuel was actually needed has long passed, like the tank is already empty.
Exactly. The team needed the fuel while they were in the middle of the grueling climb up the mountain, not, 3 weeks after they reached the summit, and the project is totally over.
Yeah, they're already exhausted by then.
Right. So the phrase in the scenario, what gets celebrated gets repeated, is not just a catchy slogan. It is a profound warning. It means the leader must actively take on the risk of choosing what to repeat in real time, even when the ultimate outcome is still locked in this fog of ambiguity. You have to trust your ability to interpret the trajectory of the work, not just the final destination.
That requires an incredible amount of internal stability, though. I mean, you have to be completely okay with the fact that you might pour gas into the tank of a project that eventually fails.
You do.
Like maybe the software launch tanks, maybe the client walks away at the last second. But you still have to be able to stand before your team and say, the outcome wasn't what we wanted, but I still stand by the innovative behavior I celebrated 3 weeks ago. Because you're celebrating the pursuit of excellence, not just the flawless execution.
Which is incredibly vulnerable. I mean, it exposes the leader's internal philosophy. It shows the team exactly what the leader values. And the moment you show what you value, you open yourself up to critique.
Oh, absolutely.
Go back to our earlier point. If you only correct typos, no one can criticize your values because typos are objectively wrong.
Right.
But if you celebrate a team's messy, innovative, but highly risky approach to a problem, you are putting your own professional judgment on the line.
And this leads us to the most challenging and I think really the most fascinating part of the notes you shared with us, because the scenario pushes this vulnerability even further. It moves from the heavy risk of deciding what to celebrate to the intense, almost agonizing difficulty of deciding who to celebrate.
Yeah, this is where it gets really tough.
Specifically when the evidence isn't even fully visible. The scenario closes with this incredible question, and I want to read it exactly. Who on your team is doing invisible work that deserves a spotlight today?
That question is where the ultimate leadership tension resides. It is the absolute peak of the mountain when it comes to the psychology of recognition. Because shining a spotlight on invisible work requires immense self-trust and profound presence from the leader.
Because by definition, invisible work doesn't show up on a dashboard. It doesn't have a neat little key performance indicator attached to it.
Right. Let's think about what invisible work actually looks like in a modern organization.
Oh.
It is the emotional labor of a junior project manager who's smoothing over a massive ego-driven conflict between the engineering and marketing departments.
Oh, it happens all the time.
Or it's the meticulous organization of a shared server that saves everyone on the team 10 minutes a day every single day.
Yeah.
Or it's a quiet, patient mentorship happening after hours when a senior designer helps a new hire understand the company's aesthetic. It is the vital connective tissue of a high-performing culture. But because it isn't tracked on a spreadsheet, because it doesn't directly generate revenue, spotlighting it is an act of pure, unshielded judgment.
Okay, I really want to press on this because it sounds beautiful in theory, right? But it sounds incredibly fraught in practice. How does a leader actually do this?
Right.
Let's play this out in the real world. If the work is truly invisible, how does a leader justify spotlighting it without seeming completely arbitrary?
It's difficult.
Like, if I'm leading a sales team and we have a massive all-hands meeting, and I suddenly shine a massive spotlight on the operations person who spent 3 hours fixing a broken API, and I totally ignore the top salesperson who just closed a $1 million deal, I risk alienating the rest of the team. I risk looking biased or playing favorites or just looking totally disconnected from the real money-making work of the organization.
Right, and that deep emotional pressure you just described, that fear of the eye roll from the top salesperson, is exactly why leaders actively avoid the spotlight.
Because of the backlash.
Because holding that spotlight doesn't just illuminate the employee,
Yeah.
it makes the leader hyper-visible too. It entirely exposes your judgment to the whole room.
Wow. Yeah, I see that.
When you reward the top salesperson, you can hide behind the spreadsheet. You can say, well, the revenue numbers dictate that Sarah gets the award today. Don't look at me, look at the math.
The numbers made me do it.
Exactly. But when you recognize invisible work, you have no math to hide behind. You have to stand in front of the team and say, I am choosing to value this subtle, unquantifiable thing because I believe it is essential to who we are.
So how do you manage the fallout then? How do you stop the people who hit all their obvious loud metrics from getting upset or feeling slighted?
You have to communicate values over metrics. You have to explicitly connect the invisible work to the survival and the excellence of the team. You don't just say, hey, thanks for fixing the API.
Right, that's too vague.
You say, I am spotlighting this behind-the-scenes effort today because it demonstrates the exact kind of unselfish problem solving that allows the rest of us to hit our aggressive targets. This is the foundation we build our numbers on.
That's powerful.
It is. And the truth is, the people playing a smaller game, the ones only obsessed with their own loud metrics, they might still roll their eyes. They might still get upset.
Probably will.
They probably will. And that is the weight of leadership. You have to be willing to absorb that misunderstanding. Recognizing invisible work is the truest, most rigorous test of a leader's presence. It means you are paying attention to the actual living, breathing nuance of the culture, not just skimming the surface of the obvious, easy-to-read data points.
It's the difference between merely managing a spreadsheet and actually leading a complex group of human beings.
Moving forward responsibly in this context means trusting your judgment and carrying the weight of that decision. It means looking at the complex, messy ecosystem of your team and saying, I see the foundational work happening in the shadows and I'm going to fuel it.
Even if you don't have all the facts.
Right. You have to do that even when you only have partial clarity about the unseen dynamics of the team. You will never see every interaction. You will never know the full story of every conflict that was quietly resolved. But if you wait until you see everything perfectly to use your spotlight, the bulb will burn out before you ever turn it on. Leadership requires acting in the gray area.
That is, wow. So what we are really talking about today, based on the scenario you provided, is a complete redefinition of recognition. It is not a soft skill. Yeah. It is not a lightweight HR-mandated bonus that you hand out with a cheap gift card when everything is perfectly resolved and the coast is entirely clear.
Not at all.
It is a heavy, essential combustible fuel. And providing that fuel requires a leader to actively navigate ambiguity. It requires you to deliberately shoulder the risk of your own subjective judgment and to decisively step away from the false, comfortable safety of merely correcting mistakes.
It requires a leader to accept that they are ultimately responsible for the momentum of the culture. And momentum, by its very nature, is always built in the presence of uncertainty. You cannot wait for the dust to settle to decide what kind of team you want to build.
We started today by talking about how easy it is to view recognition as a simple, feel-good reflex. But when we look closely at the scenario, that simplicity is just a mask. Behind it lies one of the most demanding psychological challenges a leader can face, the challenge of being visible, being vulnerable, and owning your vision of excellence before the results are guaranteed.
It's a profound shift in perspective.
It really is. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought to mull over as you look at your own team today. Think about the physical space or, the digital space where your team operates. Consider the invisible work happening around you right now, the quiet connective tissue, the unseen emotional labor holding your projects together.
It's there if you look for it.
It is. And when you feel that familiar hesitation creeping in, that subtle urge to hold back your recognition, to keep the spotlight turned off just a little bit longer, pause. Look inward at your own internal landscape. Is that hesitation really because you lack the evidence to recognize their work? Or is it because you are waiting for a level of absolute certainty that leadership simply does not?
Thank you for tuning into another inspiring episode of Leading Beyond Limits. If you enjoyed today's conversation and want to hear more from our incredible guests, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us. And if you have a remarkable leader in mind who you'd like to hear on our show or any questions and comments, feel free to reach out to us. You can find our contact information in the show notes. Remember, leadership knows no bounds, and with the right insights and determination, you too can lead beyond limits. Until next time, keep reaching for the stars and leading with purpose.
Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.